Okay, AP lecture number 3 for chapter 15. Now we get into the main thing. Steam engine. James Watt in 1769 was a Scottish engineer and machine maker. He provided for the first time in history a steady and virtually unlimited source of inanimate power. While he is not the inventor of the steam engine, he is the one who refined it to the way that they used it most famously. It is a portable source of power, not dependent on nature, and has a myriad multiple uses and industrial applications. Iron production, the chief element of all heavy industry and land or sea transport. Production limitations of the early 18th century is charcoal rather than coke used to smelt ore. Now, coke is not Coca-Cola, but it is a mineral. And smelting it is meaning you take it and you break it down from the rock using heat at high temperatures and separate the rock from the ore, and creating iron. Before the steam engine, furnaces couldn't achieve high enough blast to melt it and had limited demand. The elimination of the first two problems eliminated the third. So if you made it available, there'd be highly demand for it. And this is the furnace shop. Impact on working women. Again, gender roles and what's the role on women in industrialization. It displaced many of women's traditional economic roles in agriculture and textile manufacture as men took over heavy and skilled tasks and pushed women out. Women increasingly associated with work in the home rather than outside the home. Men's pay began outstripping women's. Women were doing piecemeal things in the home, like laundry. The growth of cities. By 1500, 156 cities with more than 10,000 people, 4 with more than 100,000. By 1800, there was 363 with more than 10,000 and 17 with more than 100,000. The greatest growth amongst capitals and ports answered to a question due to monarchical state building and expansion of overseas trade. Again, you see the overseas trade. That's part of the standard. Urban classes, urban rich, segregated from the poor. This is going to be your middle class. Modern sanitation unknown, almost no pure water. Farm animals roaming the streets. So when the farm animals are roaming the streets, the farm animals are using the bathroom in the streets. The upper class were nobles, large merchants, bankers, financiers, clergy, government officials, the small oligarchy that ran the city. Then you have the middle class, very important group. Merchants, tradespeople, bankers, people who loan people money. Professionals, diverse and divided, normally supported reform, change, economic growth, feared poor, and envied the nobility. So they feared the people below them and envied the people above them. Artisans were grocers, butchers, fishmongers. I love fishmongers. Those are people that deal with fish. Carpenters, cabinet makers, smiths, printers, tailors, a large group in any city. Like peasants, were in many ways conservative, economically vulnerable. Guilds still important. Guilds are societies of creating a masterpiece at the end under the apprentice system. And there's a workshop. Urban riots is an outlet for artisans' displeasure, often over the price of bread. Bread riots. Leaders confiscate bread or grain and sell it for a just price, with money returned to the proprietors. The danger of bread riots restrained merchants' greed. Highly ritualized social feature of the old regime economy of scarcity. Other riots were religious. Riots became increasingly political towards the end of the 18th century, often became a tool of the upper classes to use the crowd against the monarchy or against minorities. Now we get to ethnic treatment. Most Jews lived in Eastern Europe, commonly regarded as a kind of non-resident, alien, usually denied citizenship privileges unless specifically granted. This is important, so they were considered outside. They weren't even considered citizens. Lived everywhere in separate communities from non-Jews. These were called ghettos, and that's where the word ghetto comes from. In the city or primarily Jewish villages in the countryside. The age of the ghetto did not mix with mainstream societies. They would do their work during the day in the Christian world, and then they would return to the ghetto at night. A few became famous for helping rulers finance wars, but most lived in poverty. And one of those few is the Rothschilds. And that's what a ghetto would look like. And that is the end of Lecture 3.